Most people spend their entire lives believing that every debt must be paid, no matter how old it is or how little money they have left. And that belief, while responsible, is exactly what certain debt collectors rely on. Because here's what many Americans are never clearly told. Not all debts remain legally enforceable forever under U.S. law. And in a time where more retirees are living on fixed incomes, understanding that distinction can make a significant financial difference. Today, I'm walking you through 6 specific types of debts that older Americans often continue paying out of fear, even when their legal exposure may be limited or reduced. This isn't about avoiding responsibility. It's about making informed financial decisions based on how the law actually works, not how it's often presented. Let's get into it. Debt number 1, aged medical bills beyond the statute of limitations. Medical debt is one of the leading financial pressures for retirees in the United States. A single hospital visit can turn into years of payments, but what many people don't realize is that every state enforces a statute of limitations, a legal time limit for filing a lawsuit to collect a debt. In many states, that window ranges between 2 and 6 years. After that period, a debt may become what's known as time-barred, meaning a creditor's ability to successfully enforce it through the courts may be limited. However, it's important to understand that the debt does not disappear. Collectors may still attempt to contact you, and in some cases, a lawsuit could still be filed. You would need to respond and raise the statute of limitations as a defense. Recent credit reporting changes have also reduced the impact of certain medical debts on credit reports, lowering one of the primary pressure tactics used in the past. Consider Dorothy, a 76-year-old retired school teacher. For years, she sent $90 every month toward a hospital bill from an earlier procedure, sometimes delaying her own prescriptions just to keep up. When her case was reviewed by a legal aid advisor, she learned the debt had likely passed the statute of limitations in her state. She had been paying based on assumption, not legal necessity. Before making another payment on an older medical bill, one question matters. When did the debt first become delinquent? Debt number 2, time-barred credit card debt. Credit card balances are frequently sold between collection agencies, sometimes multiple times, which can make them feel current even when they're not. Like medical debt, credit card debt is also subject to statute of limitations laws. Once that window expires, the debt may be considered time-barred. But here's where many consumers unintentionally reset their risk. In certain states, making a partial payment or even acknowledging the debt can restart the legal timeline. That means a debt that may have been difficult to enforce could become actionable again. Franklin, an 80-year-old retiree, received a call regarding an older credit card balance and was asked for a small $25 payment as a sign of good faith. It seemed harmless, but that payment may have restarted the statute of limitations in his state. A debt that had aged out was effectively reactivated. Before taking any action, consumers have the right to request written verification under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, including the amount owed, the original creditor, and the date of default. If you're finding this helpful, comment the number 2 below so I know you're still with me. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing that. It helps me continue creating content focused on protecting your finances. Debt number 3, older private student loan obligations. Student loan debt is often viewed as permanent, but that's not always accurate. There's a critical distinction between federal and private student loans. Private student loans are typically governed by state contract law, meaning they may also fall under the statute of limitations rules. Over time, if no legal action is taken, enforcement through the courts may become more difficult. Carolyn, a 79-year-old retiree, had been making payments on a private student loan for years. Her primary concern wasn't the balance, it was her daughter, as she believed the debt might transfer after her passing. After consulting with a nonprofit financial counselor, she learned that the debt may have exceeded the statute of limitations in her state, and that her daughter had no responsibility since she had not co-signed. The financial relief was significant, but the emotional relief was even greater. In recent years, increased attention on lending practices and borrower protections has made it more important than ever to review older loan obligations carefully. Debt number 4, informal personal loans without legal documentation. Not all debts come from banks. Some come from moments in life when help was needed. A loan from a family members, support from a friend, or an agreement that was never written down. These situations often carry emotional weight far beyond their financial value. But from a legal standpoint, enforceability depends on documentation, timelines, and action. If there was no written agreement, no repayment terms, and no legal action within the required period, there may no longer be a legally enforceable obligation. Eugene, an 83-year-old widower, had carried guilt for decades over a small amount borrowed during a difficult time. The individual involved had long since passed away. When his situation was reviewed, he learned there was no remaining legal pathway to enforce repayment. He later described the feeling as relief, not from the amount, but from the weight of uncertainty. It's important to recognize that legal liability and personal values are not always the same. Still with me? Comment the number 4 below. And if someone you know may benefit from this information, consider sharing this video with them. Debt number 5, resold zombie debt accounts. One of the most aggressive areas in debt collection involves what's often referred to as zombie debt. These are older accounts that have been sold, sometimes multiple times, to third-party collectors. Because they're purchased at a discount, even partial repayment can be profitable. Collectors may apply urgency, reference legal consequences, and encourage immediate payment. But ownership does not change the legal timeline. The statute of limitations is typically based on the original date of default, not when the debt was purchased. Gloria, a 71-year-old retiree, was contacted regarding a balance from an unfamiliar company, and the tone suggested urgency and potential consequences. Instead of paying, she requested written verification. The documentation revealed that the debt was likely beyond the enforceable time window in her state. She submitted a complaint through the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and did not receive further contact. When dealing with older debts, verification is not optional. It's essential. Debt number 6, utility accounts and estate responsibility. A common concern among retirees is whether unpaid bills will pass on to family members. In most cases, utility accounts remain tied to the individual account holder, and responsibility does not automatically transfer to relatives unless they are legally connected to the account. However, in some situations, claims may be made against a person's estate, depending on local laws. Walter, a 77-year-old retiree, spent years concerned that his son would inherit unpaid utility bills. After speaking with an estate planning professional, he learned that his son would not be personally responsible. That clarity allowed him to focus on what mattered most in his later years. What to do before paying any debt. Before making a payment, especially on an older account, it's important to take a few careful steps. Request written debt validation, confirm the original date of default, review your state's statute of limitations, and avoid restarting the timeline unintentionally. If needed, consult a qualified legal or financial professional. In some situations, repayment or settlement may still be the best financial decision depending on your individual circumstances. This content is provided for educational purposes only and does not constitute legal or financial advice. Laws vary by state, and individual circumstances differ. Some debts may still be subject to collection or legal action. Always consult a qualified attorney or financial professional before making decisions. The goal isn't to avoid responsibility, and it never has been. It's about making informed, thoughtful decisions based on facts, real, verifiable information, not fear, pressure, or assumptions that may no longer apply to your situation. Because when it comes to something as important as your finances, especially in retirement, clarity matters far more than urgency. You now understand something that many people go their entire lives without ever being told. You understand how time, law, and financial systems actually interact, and how that can directly affect the choices you make. And that kind of knowledge is powerful, but only if you use it carefully, patiently, and with the right perspective. And remember, in some situations, speaking with a qualified professional may still be the best step before making any financial decision. If this video helped you in any way, I'd really like to hear from you. Comment below and let me know which of these 6 points stood out the most or changed the way you think. I read every single comment, and your feedback helps shape what I create next. And if you believe this information could help someone else, a friend, a parent, a relative who might be quietly dealing with old debt, consider sharing this video with them. You never know whose burden you might be helping to lift just by passing this along. Thank you for spending your time here. I appreciate it more than you know. I'll see you in the next video.